A career built on dreams. Rebecca Hayes stood on the 19th floor of the Patterson building, staring at the architectural blueprints spread across her desk. The afternoon sun streamed through the glass windows, casting warm light across the rendering of what would become Seattle's newest community center. Her fingers traced the lines she had drawn, each curve and angle representing months of careful planning and sleepless nights at 28 years old. Rebecca had earned her place at Morrison & Associates architecture firm. She was not the senior architect. Not yet, but everyone knew her name. Her designs had won 2 regional awards, and her latest project was about to break ground. The community center would serve underprivileged neighborhoods, offering educational programs and safe spaces for children. This was more than just a building to Rebecca. This was purpose. This was the reason she had survived 4 years of architecture school while working 3 part-time jobs. "Rebecca, the client wants to see you," Claudia Ross called from across the office. Claudia was her closest friend, a fellow architect with wild red hair and an even wilder sense of humor. They had met during their first week at the firm and had been inseparable ever since. Rebecca had gathered her portfolio and headed to the conference room. As she walked through the office, she passed colleagues huddled over their own projects, the familiar hum of creativity filling the air. This place felt like home. These people felt like family. The meeting went well. The client approved her latest modifications, and Rebecca returned to her desk feeling accomplished. But when she checked her phone, her heart sank. 15 missed calls from her father. 15. Her hands trembled as she dialed back. "Sweetheart, I need to see you tonight." Her father's voice sounded strained. "Older somehow, Dad? What happened? Are you okay? Just come to the house, please." The line went dead. The weight of secrets. Gerald Hayes lived in a modest 2-bedroom house in the suburbs. The same house where Rebecca had grown up. The paint was peeling, the lawn overgrown, but it held memories of better times. Times before her mother had passed away from cancer 6 years ago. Times before her father had lost himself in grief and bad decisions. Rebecca arrived just after sunset. The porch light flickered, casting strange shadows across the front door. She knocked twice before entering, finding her father sitting at the kitchen table with his head in his hands. "Dad!" She sat down across from him, noticing the way his shoulders shook. He looked up, and she saw tears streaming down his weathered face. Gerald Hayes was only 55, but he looked 70. Deep lines creased his forehead, and his eyes held a hollow emptiness that made Rebecca's chest tighten. "I did something terrible, Rebecca. Something I can never take back." "What are you talking about?" He slid an envelope across the table. Rebecca opened it with shaking hands. Inside were documents, legal papers covered in numbers and signatures, loan agreements, payment schedules, and at the bottom, a sum that made her gasp. $800,000. "Dad, what is this?" "What did you do?" "I borrowed money from the wrong people." His voice cracked. "I thought I could win it back. At the casino, at the card games. I kept thinking the next hand would be the one, but I just kept losing and losing. And now they want their money, Rebecca. They want it all, and I don't have it." Rebecca's mind raced. $800,000. How could anyone accumulate that much debt? How long had this been going on? Who did you borrow from? Private lenders. The kind who don't go through banks. The kind who send men to your house in the middle of the night. He grabbed her hand, his grip desperate. "They gave me 6 months. That was 5 months ago. I have 30 days left, Rebecca. 30 days before they take everything. The house. My truck. Everything. We'll figure this out. We'll talk to a lawyer, file for bankruptcy, something. It's too late for that. They don't care about bankruptcy. They want cash." He took a shuddering breath. "But there's a way out. Someone made me an offer." Rebecca pulled her hand back. "What kind of offer?" "His name is Dominic Pierce. He's a real estate developer, very wealthy. He said he would pay off my entire debt. Every penny." "Why would a stranger do that?" Her father could not meet her eyes. "Because it's not for nothing. He wants something in return." A cold feeling settled in Rebecca's stomach. "What does he want?" "You, Rebecca. He wants you to marry him." The room spun. Rebecca gripped the edge of the table, certain she had misheard. "What did you just say?" "I know how it sounds." "I know. But he's a good man, Rebecca. Successful, respected. He said he would take care of you, give you everything you could ever want. And in return, he'll clear my debt." "You're trying to sell me?" Rebecca's voice rose, sharp and incredulous. "You're actually trying to sell your daughter to pay off your gambling debts?" "No, sweetheart, it's not like that. He genuinely wants to marry you. He saw you at some charity event last year and has been asking about you ever since." Rebecca stood up so fast, her chair toppled backward. "I can't believe this. I can't believe you would even consider this. Rebecca, please. I'm drowning. These people will kill me if I don't pay. They've already sent warnings, threats. I'm terrified every time I hear a car outside." She stared at her father, this man who had taught her to ride a bike, who had held her while she cried after her mother died, who had promised to always protect her. And now he was asking her to sacrifice her entire life to save his. "I need to think," she whispered, backing toward the door. "There's a gala tomorrow night. Dominic will be there. He wants to meet you, talk to you properly. Please, just meet him. Just talk to him." Rebecca left without answering, her mind a storm of anger, fear, and disbelief. The night everything changed. The Harbor Grand Hotel hosted Seattle's annual Children's Future Charity Gala, an event that drew the city's wealthiest donors and most influential people. Rebecca had attended before, representing her firm and networking with potential clients. Tonight, she wore a navy blue dress that Claudia had insisted she borrow. Her dark hair pulled into an elegant twist, but she was not here for business. She was here because her father had begged her to come, to meet the man who thought he could buy her like property. "Hey, you look beautiful. But you also look like you're about to commit murder," Claudia whispered, linking her arm through Rebecca's. "Want to tell me what's really going on?" "Not here. Later." The ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and gold accents. Waiters circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres, while a string quartet played softly in the corner. Rebecca accepted a glass of champagne she had no intention of drinking and scanned the crowd. That's when she saw him. Dominic Pierce stood near the bar, surrounded by a small group of admirers. He was tall, easily over 6 feet, with dark hair styled perfectly and sharp features that belonged on magazine covers. His suit probably cost more than Rebecca's monthly rent, and the watch on his wrist could have funded a small architectural project. He carried himself with the casual confidence of someone who had never been told no. Their eyes met across the room. He excused himself from his companions and walked toward her with purposeful strides. "Rebecca Hayes," he said, his voice smooth and controlled. "I've been hoping to meet you, Dominic Pierce," she replied coolly. "The man who thinks he can buy people." His smile did not waver. "Direct. I like that. Perhaps we could speak somewhere more private." Against her better judgment, Rebecca followed him to a quiet balcony overlooking the city lights. The night air was crisp, carrying the scent of salt water from the harbor. "Your father told you about my offer," Dominic said, leaning against the railing. "Your offer? You mean your attempt to purchase a wife like she's a car? Or a house? I understand how it must sound, but hear me out." He turned to face her fully. "I saw you at a similar event last year. You were presenting a design for a youth shelter. The passion in your voice, the way you spoke about creating spaces that could change lives, it stayed with me. I made inquiries, learned about your work, your background, and yes, I learned about your father's situation. So you decided to exploit it?" "I decided to offer a solution that could benefit everyone. Your father needs help. I can provide that help. And in return, I get the chance to know the most fascinating woman I've ever encountered." Rebecca laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You don't know me at all. You've constructed some fantasy based on watching me from across a room. This isn't romance, Mr. Pierce. This is obsession." His jaw tightened. "Perhaps you're right. Perhaps I am obsessed. But I'm also sincere. I'm offering you security, opportunity, a life without financial worry. Your father would be safe. You could continue your work, even expand it. I could fund your community projects, help you make a real difference. And all I have to do is give up my freedom, my choices, my dignity. All you have to do is give me a chance. 1 year? Marry me for 1 year. Let me prove that we could build something real together. If at the end of that year you still want to leave, I'll let you go with a generous settlement. Your father's debt will remain paid regardless." Rebecca shook her head. "You really believe this could work? That I could ever genuinely care for someone who would manipulate my family's crisis to get what he wants? I believe anything is possible if you're willing to try." She looked at him for a long moment, studying his face. He was handsome, she could not deny that. And there was something in his eyes, a loneliness perhaps, that almost made her feel sorry for him. Almost. "My answer is no, Mr. Pierce. I'm not for sale at any price." His expression hardened. "You're making a mistake. Your father has less than a month before those lenders come for him. They won't be kind, Rebecca. They'll take everything, and they might take more than just property. Then I'll find another way to help him. But I won't do it by selling myself to you." She turned to walk away, but his voice stopped her. "There's no other way. I've already checked. No bank will loan him that kind of money with his credit history. No legitimate lender will touch him. I'm his only option." Rebecca looked back over her shoulder. "Then I guess we'll have to live with the consequences of his choices." She walked back into the ballroom, found Claudia, and left the gala without looking back. As their car pulled away from the hotel, Rebecca saw Dominic standing on the balcony, watching her leave. Her phone buzzed. A text from her father. "Did you talk to him? What did he say?" Rebecca turned off her phone and leaned her head against the window. She had done the right thing. She knew she had done the right thing, so why did she feel like her world was crumbling? 3 months of silence. Rebecca threw herself into her work with renewed intensity. She stayed late at the office, volunteered for extra projects, and avoided her father's calls. When he showed up at her apartment, she told him through the closed door that she needed space. Time, distance. The community center broke ground on schedule, and Rebecca attended the ceremony with her colleagues. She smiled for photos and shook hands with city officials, but something inside her felt hollow. Claudia noticed, of course. "You've been different since that gala." "What happened?" "Just family stuff. It'll work itself out." But it did not work itself out. And 3 months after she had walked away from Dominic Pierce's proposal, everything fell apart. Rebecca was reviewing construction plans when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. "Miss Hayes, this is Pacific Memorial Hospital. Your father was brought in an hour ago. Heart attack. You should come immediately." The plans scattered across her desk as Rebecca grabbed her keys and ran racing. Against time, Rebecca's hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. The hospital was 40 minutes away in normal traffic. But she made it in 25, running to red lights and ignoring the angry honks of other drivers. Nothing mattered except getting to her father. Pacific Memorial Hospital loomed ahead. A massive structure of glass and concrete. Rebecca abandoned her car in the emergency parking lot and sprinted through the automatic doors. The antiseptic smell hit her immediately, that distinctive hospital odor of cleaning chemicals and worry. "Gerald Hayes," she gasped at the reception desk. He was brought in with a heart attack. The nurse checked her computer, her expression professionally neutral. 4th floor cardiac intensive care unit. Room 412. Rebecca did not wait for the elevator. She took the stairs 2 at a time, bursting through the 4th floor door, breathless and terrified. A doctor stood outside room 412 reviewing a chart. He looked up as she approached. "Are you Rebecca Hayes?" "Yes. How is he?" "Can I see him?" "I'm Dr. Patel. Your father is stable for now. We performed an emergency procedure to clear a blocked artery. He's sedated but breathing on his own." The doctor's dark eyes held concern. "Miss Hayes, I need to be honest with you. Your father's heart is severely weakened. The stress on his body has been immense. Has he been under unusual pressure recently?" Rebecca thought about the debt collectors, the threats, the constant fear her father must have been living with. "Yes, a lot of pressure. I suspected as much. His blood pressure was dangerously high when he arrived. If he experiences this level of stress again, another heart attack is likely. And next time, we might not be able to save him." The words hit Rebecca like a physical blow. She steadied herself against the wall, trying to process what the doctor was telling her. Can I see him? Of course, but keep it brief. He needs rest. Rebecca pushed open the door to room 412. Her father lay in the hospital bed. Tubes and wires connecting him to various machines. His face looked gray against the white pillow, his breathing shallow but steady. She pulled a chair close and took his hand. Dad, she whispered. I'm here. I'm so sorry. I should have answered your calls. I should have helped you figure something out. His eyes fluttered open. When he saw her, tears began streaming down his cheeks. Rebecca, my baby girl, don't talk. Just rest. No, I need to tell you. His voice was weak, barely audible. They came yesterday. The debt collectors. Said I was out of time. They took the truck. Said they'd be back for the house next week. He gripped her hand with surprising strength. I couldn't take it anymore. The fear, the shame. My chest started hurting, and I knew this was it. Yeah, you're going to be okay. The doctor fixed you up. You just need to rest and recover. Rebecca, there's no recovering from this. Not unless the debt is paid. They'll keep coming. The stress will kill me even if my heart doesn't. Rebecca wiped her eyes, trying to think clearly through the panic and grief. $800,000. Where could anyone get that kind of money? She had some savings, maybe $30,000 at most. Her firm would not loan her that amount. Banks had already refused her father. There was only one person who could help. The realization settled over her, like a heavy blanket. She had run away from the solution 3 months ago, choosing pride over practicality. But now, sitting beside her father's hospital bed, watching machines keep him alive, pride seemed like a luxury she could not afford. I'll fix this, she said quietly. I promise you, I'll fix this. Her father's eyes widened. Rebecca, no. Don't go to him. I won't let you sacrifice yourself for my mistakes. It's already decided. Get some rest, Dad. Everything is going to be okay. She kissed his forehead and left the room before he could protest further. In the hallway, Rebecca pulled out her phone and searched for Dominic Pierce's contact information. His company website listed a main office in downtown Seattle. She could go there tomorrow, beg if she had to, negotiate new terms. But fate had different plans. As Rebecca walked toward the elevator, she saw a familiar figure standing near the nurse's station. Tall, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit, dark hair perfectly styled. Dominic Pierce looked exactly as he had 3 months ago, except his eyes were different, colder, harder. He saw her at the same moment. Their gazes locked across the corridor. Rebecca, he said, walking toward her with measured steps. I heard about your father. I'm sorry, what are you doing here? Her voice came out harsher than intended. I have connections at this hospital. When Gerald Hayes was admitted, someone notified me. He glanced toward room 4112. How is he? Stable, for now. Rebecca crossed her arms. Did you come to gloat? To remind me that you were right about the consequences? I came because I was concerned. His expression softened slightly. Believe it or not, I take no pleasure in seeing you or your father suffer. They stood in uncomfortable silence, the sounds of the hospital filling the space between them. Beeping monitors, hushed conversations, the squeak of shoes on linoleum floors. I need to talk to you, Rebecca said finally. About your offer. My offer expired 3 months ago when you walked away. Her heart sank. What do you mean? I mean, the situation has changed. Your father's debt has been sold again. Twice, actually. The current holders are not patient men. They've already begun seizing assets. Dominic pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket, which is why I bought the debt myself yesterday. All $800,000 plus the accumulated interest and penalties. The total came to just over $1 million. Becca stared at the envelope. You bought my father's debt? Yes. Why? Because I knew you would eventually come to me. And I wanted to make sure I was the one holding the leverage when you did. The coldness in his voice made Rebecca take a step back. This was not the man who had spoken to her at the gala, the one who had claimed to be obsessed with her passion and purpose. This was someone different, someone calculating and ruthless. So what now? You own my father's debt, which means you own me? In a manner of speaking, Dominic opened the envelope and showed her the documents inside. Legal papers transferring debt ownership from the original lenders to Pierce Holdings.
Elsie?
Her father's signature at the bottom, shaky and desperate. Your father has two options. Pay me $1 million within 7 days, or face legal action that will result in the seizure of all remaining assets and potential criminal charges for fraud. Criminal charges? For what? The original loan application contained false information about his income and assets. That constitutes fraud. I have lawyers who can make that case very compelling. Rebecca felt like she was drowning. You're threatening to have my father arrested? I'm explaining the reality of his situation. Dominic put the documents back in the envelope. However, there is a third option. Let me guess. I marry you. Yes. But the terms have changed. It's no longer a one-year arrangement. It's permanent. You marry me, live as my wife in every public sense, and the debt disappears completely. Your father can keep his house, receive the best medical care, and never worry about money again. And if I refuse, then I proceed with option 2. Your father goes to jail or dies from the stress of fighting legal battles he cannot win. The choice is yours, Rebecca. She wanted to slap him, wanted to scream at him for being so manipulative, so cruel. But she also understood that she was trapped, completely and utterly trapped. You're a monster, she whispered. I'm a businessman who protects his interests. You rejected me once, humiliated me in front of people I needed to impress. Did you think there would be no consequences? So this is revenge? You're forcing me into marriage to punish me? Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe, or regret. But it vanished quickly, replaced by that cold, hard mask. This is me getting what I want. What I've wanted since the moment I saw you? Call it revenge, if that makes you feel better. But either way, you'll be my wife. Rebecca looked back at her father's hospital room. Through the small window, she could see him lying in that bed, frail and broken. The man who had taught her to draw her first building sketch, who had worked double shifts to pay for her school supplies, who had cried at her college graduation, so proud of what she had accomplished. She could not let him die. She could not let him go to jail. Even if it meant giving up everything she had worked for, everything she had dreamed of, she could not abandon him. Fine, she said, turning back to Dominic. I'll marry you, but I have conditions. You're not in a position to make demands. Take it or leave it. We live in separate bedrooms. You don't touch me unless absolutely necessary for public appearances. And my father gets moved to the best cardiac facility in the state with round-the-clock care. Dominic considered this for a moment. Agreed, but I have conditions too. You quit your job at Morrison & Associates. You become a full-time wife, attending events with me, hosting dinners, playing the role convincingly. No contact with male friends unless I'm present, and absolutely no attempts to leave or file for divorce. If you try, the debt returns with triple the interest. Each condition felt like another chain wrapping around her. But what choice did she have? When do we start this nightmare? She asked bitterly. Tonight. My driver will take you home to pack your things. You'll move into my estate immediately. We'll marry in a private ceremony this weekend. He handed her a business card with an address. Be ready by 8 o'clock. He walked away without another word, his footsteps echoing down the hospital corridor. Rebecca stood frozen, the business card burning in her hand like a brand. She had just agreed to marry a man she barely knew, a man who had manipulated her family's tragedy to force her into a lifetime commitment, a man who looked at her with cold calculation instead of warmth. Rebecca returned to her father's room. He was sleeping now, his chest rising and falling steadily. She kissed his forehead again, memorizing the feel of his skin, the sound of his breathing. I hope this is worth it, Dad, she whispered. I hope you understand what I'm giving up for you. The gilded cage at precisely 8 o'clock, a black Mercedes pulled up outside Rebecca's apartment building. The driver, a stern-looking man in his 50s, introduced himself as Bernard and helped load her 3 suitcases into the trunk. She had packed quickly, grabbing clothes and personal items while trying not to think about what she was doing. Claudia had called twice during the packing. Rebecca sent both calls to voicemail. How could she explain this to her best friend? How could she tell anyone that she was marrying a man she despised to save her father from debt collectors and jail time? The drive to Dominic's estate took 40 minutes, carrying them away from the city into the wealthy suburbs, where massive homes sat on acres of manicured land. They turned through iron gates that opened automatically, following a long driveway lined with perfectly trimmed hedges and imported trees. The house appeared like something from a magazine spread. 3 stories of modern architecture, all clean lines and enormous windows. Soft lighting illuminated the exterior, making it glow against the dark sky. A fountain dominated the circular driveway, its water cascading over smooth stones. Bernard parked near the front entrance and retrieved Rebecca's luggage. The door opened before they reached it, revealing Dominic in casual clothes. Jeans and a black sweater that somehow still looked expensive. His hair was slightly damp, like he had just showered. "Welcome home," he said, the words sounding rehearsed. Rebecca walked past him without responding. The interior was even more impressive than the exterior. Marble floors stretched in every direction. A grand staircase curved upward to the second floor. Abstract art hung on walls, painted in soft, neutral tones. Everything looked perfect. Sterile. Cold. "Our room is upstairs," Dominic said, gesturing to the staircase. "Third door on the left. Bernard will bring your things up. Are you hungry? The kitchen staff can prepare something." "I'm not hungry. I just want to sleep." "Fine. We'll discuss the arrangements tomorrow. There's an event tomorrow evening that we need to attend together. Formal attire. I've already had several dresses delivered to your closet. Choose whichever one you like." Rebecca started up the stairs, then paused. "Where's your room?" "East wing. Opposite side of the house from yours. As agreed, complete privacy." She continued climbing without another word. The third door on the left opened into a bedroom larger than her entire apartment. A king-size bed dominated the space, covered in white linens that looked impossibly soft. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the estate's gardens. A sitting area featured a cream-colored couch and reading chair. 2 more doors led to what she assumed were a bathroom and closet. Rebecca walked to the windows and stared out at the darkness. Somewhere beyond those gardens, beyond the gates and hedges, was her real life. Her job, her friends, her freedom. All of it slipping away like water through her fingers. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Bernard entered with her suitcases, setting them near the closet door. "Will you need help unpacking, Miss Hayes?" "No, thank you." "And it's not Miss Hayes anymore, is it? Or it won't be after this weekend." Bernard's expression remained neutral. "Master Dominic is a good man, despite what you may think. I've worked for him for 10 years. He can be difficult, demanding even, but he's fair. And he protects the people he cares about. He doesn't care about me. I'm just an obsession he decided to collect." Apps. "Or perhaps you don't see the full picture yet." Bernard moved toward the door. "Good night, Miss Hayes. If you need anything, there's a phone on the nightstand. Dial 9 for the kitchen, 7 for housekeeping, and 1 for Master Dominic." After he left, Rebecca opened her suitcases and began unpacking mechanically. Clothes went into drawers. Toiletries into the bathroom, books onto the shelves. She worked until midnight, creating some semblance of order in this gilded cage. Finally, exhausted, she collapsed onto the bed. The sheets were as soft as they looked, the mattress perfectly firm. In any other circumstance, this room would be a dream. But tonight, it felt like a prison cell with expensive furniture. Rebecca's phone buzzed. A text from Claudia. "Where are you?" "You're not answering." "I'm worried." "Call me." She typed and deleted 3 different responses before settling on, "I'm okay. Family emergency. I'll explain soon. Promise." Another message appeared immediately. "What kind of emergency? Do you need help?" "No. Just need time. Talk tomorrow." Rebecca silenced her phone and closed her eyes. Tomorrow, she would have to face reality. Tomorrow, she would have to play the role of Dominic Pierce's devoted fiancé at some society event. Tomorrow she would have to smile and pretend and lie, but tonight, alone in this beautiful prison, she allowed herself to cry. Playing pretend the next evening arrived too quickly. Rebecca spent most of the day avoiding Dominic, exploring the massive house and trying to familiarize herself with her new surroundings. The estate had 12 bedrooms, a home gym, an indoor pool, a library with thousands of books, and a chef's kitchen where a woman named Helen prepared meals. Helen was kind. In her 60s, with graying hair and warm eyes, she tried to engage Rebecca in conversation about food preferences and dietary restrictions, but Rebecca could barely focus. Everything felt surreal, like she was living in someone else's life. At 5 o'clock, a woman named Simone arrived. She was a personal stylist, she explained, hired by Dominic to help Rebecca prepare for the evening's event. The charity auction at the Bellingham Gallery, one of Seattle's premier art venues. "Mr. Pierce wants you to look perfect," Simone said, leading Rebecca to the closet where 6 designer gowns hung in protective bags. "This is an important night. Many influential people will attend, and everyone will want to meet his new fiancée." The word fiancé made Rebecca's stomach turn. They were not engaged in any real sense. This was a business transaction disguised as romance. Simone unzipped each dress bag, revealing gowns in various colors and styles. Emerald green silk, midnight blue velvet, deep burgundy satin. Each one probably cost more than Rebecca had made in a month at her old job. She had called Morrison and Associates that morning, telling them she needed an immediate leave of absence for family reasons. Her boss had been understanding but concerned. Rebecca had promised to explain more later, knowing she never could. "How do you tell your employer that you've been forced to quit because your new husband demands your complete attention?" "Try this one," Simone said, holding up the burgundy gown. "It will look stunning with your dark hair." Rebecca allowed herself to be dressed like a doll. Simone helped her into the gown, which fit perfectly, despite never having been measured. Dominic must have gotten her size from somewhere. The thought of him researching her measurements felt invasive and creepy. Next came hair and makeup. Simone worked efficiently, transforming Rebecca's simple appearance into something red carpet-worthy. Soft curls, dramatic eye makeup, deep red lips that matched the dress. Diamond earrings appeared from a velvet box, followed by a matching necklace. "Mr. Pierce selected these himself," Simone said as she fastened the necklace. "They belonged to his grandmother." Rebecca looked at herself in the full-length mirror. The woman staring back was beautiful, elegant, sophisticated, and completely foreign. This was not Rebecca Hayes, the architect who wore jeans to work and kept her hair in a messy bun. This was someone else. Someone playing a role. A knock on the door made both women turn. Dominic entered, and Rebecca saw his eyes widen slightly when he looked at her. "You look breathtaking," he said quietly. "I look like your accessory," Rebecca replied coldly. Simone excused herself quickly. Sensing the tension, Dominic approached slowly, stopping a few feet away. He wore a perfectly tailored tuxedo, his dark hair styled immaculately. He looked like he belonged on the cover of a business magazine. "We need to establish some ground rules for tonight," he said, his voice businesslike. "At the event, you stay by my side unless I indicate otherwise. When people ask how we met, we tell them it was at a charity event last year. Love at first sight. We've been dating privately ever since, and recently got engaged, so we lie. We create a narrative that makes sense to people. No one needs to know the real arrangement." "The real arrangement where you blackmailed me into marrying you?" His jaw tightened. "I prefer to think of it as solving a problem that benefited both parties." "You keep telling yourself that." Dominic moved closer, close enough that Rebecca could smell his cologne. Expensive and subtle, with notes of cedar and something darker. "Listen to me carefully, Rebecca. Tonight you will smile. You will laugh at my jokes. You will touch my arm affectionately and look at me like you adore me. You will convince every person in that gallery that you are madly in love with me. Because if you don't, if you embarrass me or make people suspicious, the consequences for your father will be severe. Do you understand?" Rebecca met his cold stare with one of her own. "Crystal clear." "Good. The car is waiting."
Ow.
They drove to the gallery in tense silence. Bernard navigated through evening traffic while Rebecca stared out the window, watching the city lights blur past. Dominic sat beside her close enough that their legs almost touched. But the distance between them felt infinite. The Bellingham Gallery was already crowded when they arrived. Valets rushed to open car doors while photographers snapped pictures of arriving guests. Rebecca took a deep breath, preparing herself for the performance of her life. Dominic exited first, then offered his hand to help her out. His fingers closed around hers, warm and strong. For the cameras, he pulled her close, his other hand resting possessively on her lower back. "Smile," he murmured against her ear. Rebecca smiled. Bright and genuine looking, the product of years of forcing happiness at family gatherings and work events. Flashbulbs exploded as photographers captured the moment. Tomorrow, their picture would probably appear in society columns and gossip blogs. Inside, the gallery was magnificent. Soaring ceilings, white walls displaying contemporary art, soft lighting that made everything glow. Waiters circulated with champagne and appetizers. While classical music played softly in the background, people immediately began approaching them. Older couples who apparently knew Dominic well. Business associates. Wealthy socialites in designer gowns and jewelry worth more than cars. Each introduction followed the same pattern. Dominic would introduce Rebecca as his fiancée. She would smile and shake hands. Someone would ask how they met, and Dominic would deliver the rehearsed story. "It was love at first sight," he said to a silver-haired woman dripping in diamonds. "I saw Rebecca across the room at a children's charity event, and I knew immediately that she was special." The woman smiled indulgently. "How romantic. And when is the wedding?" "Soon," Dominic replied smoothly. "We're keeping it intimate. Just close family and friends." Rebecca maintained her smile, playing her role perfectly. She laughed at appropriate moments, contributed small comments when expected, and allowed Dominic to keep his hand on her waist or shoulder. To anyone watching, they looked like a couple genuinely in love, but inside Rebecca felt hollow. Each lie, each forced smile, each pretend touch carved away another piece of her soul. This was her life now, playing pretend for strangers while her real dreams died. "You're doing well," Dominic whispered during a brief moment alone. "Everyone believes it." "Good for them," Rebecca replied, accepting another glass of champagne from a passing waiter. "Don't drink too much. I need you coherent." "Don't worry. I won't embarrass you. I'll be the perfect plastic wife you purchased." His eyes flashed with something, anger maybe, or hurt. But before he could respond, another couple approached, and the performance continued. The evening dragged on. Rebecca met dozens of people whose names she would never remember, smiled until her cheeks hurt, and answered the same questions over and over. "Where did you grow up? What do you do? How did you and Dominic meet?" Each answer was a lie, each conversation a reminder of everything she had lost. Finally, mercifully, the event began winding down. Dominic said his goodbyes to important contacts while Rebecca waited, her feet aching in the designer heels. She just wanted to go back to the estate, remove this costume, and be alone with her misery. They were walking toward the exit when Rebecca heard a familiar voice. "Rebecca. Rebecca Hayes?" She turned and saw Theodore Grant, Dominic's business partner, standing with a woman Rebecca recognized. Tall, red-haired, impeccably dressed. Claudia. Rebecca's heart stopped. Claudia was here. Her best friend was at this event, and she was about to witness the entire charade. Claudia's eyes widened as she took in Rebecca's appearance. The designer gown, the expensive jewelry, Dominic's hand on her waist. "Rebecca, what the hell is going on?" Claudia asked, her voice sharp. "You said family emergency? You didn't say you were getting engaged to Dominic Pierce?" "Claudia, I can explain. Theodore mentioned his partner was bringing his new fiancée tonight. I had no idea it was you." Claudia looked between Rebecca and Dominic. "How long has this been going on?" "About a year," Dominic said smoothly. "We've been keeping it private." "A year?" Claudia's voice rose. "Rebecca, we talk every day. You never mentioned dating anyone, let alone someone like him." I wanted to keep my personal life separate from work, Rebecca said, hating how weak the excuse sounded. This is insane. This doesn't make any sense. Claudia grabbed Rebecca's arm. I need to talk to you. Alone. Perhaps tomorrow would be better, Dominic interjected. Rebecca has had a long day. I wasn't asking you, Claudia snapped. She pulled Rebecca away from Dominic, toward a quiet corner of the gallery. Tell me the truth right now. What is happening? And don't feed me the same bullshit you told everyone else tonight. Rebecca's carefully constructed facade cracked. Tears welled in her eyes despite her efforts to hold them back. I can't tell you. Not here, not now. Then when? Because my best friend just suddenly quit her job, stopped answering calls, and appeared at a society event engaged to a billionaire she never mentioned once in the entire time I've known her. That's not normal, Rebecca. That's not you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I wanted to tell you, but everything happened so fast and I didn't know how to explain. Claudia's anger softened slightly. Are you in trouble? Did he do something to you? Because if this isn't what you want, we can leave right now. I'll help you. Whatever you need. Rebecca wanted to say yes. Wanted to run away with Claudia and never look back. But then she thought of her father in that hospital bed, of the debt that would destroy him, of Dominic's threats. I'm okay, she lied. Really, this is what I want. You're lying. I can see it in your eyes. Claudia, please. Just trust me. I'll explain everything when I can. But right now, I need you to let this go. Claudia stared at her for a long moment, searching her face. Finally, she pulled Rebecca into a tight hug. Help me? She whispered fiercely. Tomorrow. Or I'm coming to find you. I will. I promise. They separated, and Rebecca returned to Dominic, who was watching with a dark expression. What did you tell her? He asked as they walked to the car. The same lie I told everyone else. That we're in love. Good. They rode home in silence. When they arrived, Rebecca went straight to her room without saying goodnight. She peeled off the expensive gown, removed the borrowed jewelry, and scrubbed the makeup from her face. In the mirror, her own reflection stared back, red-eyed and exhausted. This was her life now. Lies and performances. Beautiful prisons and forced smiles. Rebecca crawled into bed and cried herself to sleep for the second night in a row. The wedding nobody wanted 3 days later. Rebecca became Dominic Pierce's wife in a sterile civil ceremony at the courthouse. No guests, no flowers, no celebration. Just a judge, 2 required witnesses pulled from the courthouse staff, and 15 minutes of legal proceedings that bound her to a man she despised. Rebecca wore a simple cream-colored dress she had bought at a department store during her one supervised trip outside the estate. Dominic had sent Bernard as her escort, making it clear she was not allowed to go anywhere alone. The message was obvious. She was property now, not a person with freedom. Dominic wore a dark suit, looking every bit the successful businessman entering a merger rather than a groom getting married. When the judge asked if he took Rebecca as his lawfully wedded wife, he said, I do, in the same tone he probably used to approve quarterly reports. When it was Rebecca's turn, she hesitated. The judge waited patiently while Rebecca stared at Dominic, this stranger who had systematically destroyed her life to satisfy his obsession. His dark eyes held hers, daring her to refuse, reminding her silently of the consequences if she did. I do, she whispered, the words tasting like poison. The judge pronounced them married. Dominic leaned in to kiss her, a brief press of lips that felt clinical and cold. Rebecca closed her eyes and tried not to recoil. Congratulations, the judge said, handing them official marriage certificates. I wish you both much happiness. What a joke. They signed the necessary paperwork in silence. Rebecca's hand trembled as she wrote her new name, Rebecca Pierce. Even seeing it on paper made her feel sick. She was no longer Rebecca Hayes, the architect with dreams and ambitions. She was Rebecca Pierce, trophy wife and prisoner. The drive back to the estate was excruciating. Bernard drove while Rebecca stared out the window, watching normal people living normal lives. A woman walking her dog, a father pushing a stroller, a couple holding hands and laughing. Simple moments of freedom she had taken for granted and lost. We're hosting a dinner party tomorrow night, Dominic said, breaking the silence. Announcing our marriage to close friends and business associates. You'll need to play the happy bride. Of course, Rebecca replied flatly. Heaven forbid anyone think this marriage is anything other than a fairy tale. Your sarcasm isn't helpful. Either is being forced into marriage. But here we are. Dominic's jaw clenched. I've given you everything. A beautiful home, financial security, access to resources most people can only dream about. Your father is receiving the best medical care available. I don't understand why you insist on being miserable. Becca turned to face him, anger finally breaking through her resignation. You don't understand? You really don't understand why being blackmailed into marriage might make someone unhappy. I didn't blackmail you. I presented options, and you chose the one that benefited your family. Options. You threatened to have my father arrested and let him die from stress. That's not options. That's extortion. Your father's problems existed long before I entered the picture. I provided a solution. You provided a cage made of gold and called it a gift. They fell silent again, the tension thick enough to suffocate. When they arrived home, Rebecca went immediately to her room and locked the door. She threw the marriage certificate across the room, watching it flutter to the floor like a dead bird. Her phone buzzed. Messages from Claudia that Rebecca had been ignoring for 3 days. Please call me. I'm worried, Rebecca. This isn't like you. What's going on? I don't believe the happy couple act. Tell me the truth. Fine. If you won't call, I'm coming over. Rebecca quickly typed, I'm okay. Just adjusting to everything. Can we talk next week? Claudia's response was immediate. No. We talk now. Give me your address. Rebecca hesitated, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Part of her desperately wanted to see her friend, to tell someone the truth, to have one person in the world who knew what she was really going through. But another part feared what Claudia might do with that information. If she tried to help, if she confronted Dominic or went to authorities, Rebecca's father would pay the price. Not yet, Rebecca finally typed. I promise I'll explain everything. Just give me time, you're scaring me. Don't be scared. I'm fine. Really? She wasn't fine. She was the opposite of fine. But Claudia couldn't know that. The performance continues. The dinner party was an elaborate affair. Helen and her kitchen staff prepared a multi-course meal that probably cost more than Rebecca's old monthly rent. The dining room table, which normally felt absurdly large, was set for 12 guests with china and crystal that likely belonged in a museum. Simone arrived in the afternoon to help Rebecca prepare. Another designer gown, this one a deep sapphire blue, that hugged her curves and made her dark hair shine. More expensive jewelry, borrowed from Dominic's extensive collection. Hair and makeup that transformed her into the perfect society wife. You look like a princess, Simone said, stepping back to admire her work. Rebecca thought she looked like an expensive doll, beautiful and lifeless. The guests began arriving at 7. Theodore Grand and his wife Natasha came first. Theodore was friendly enough, but his eyes held questions he was too polite to ask directly. Natasha, an elegant woman in her 40s, studied Rebecca with obvious curiosity. We were so surprised to hear about your marriage, Natasha said, accepting a glass of wine from a server. Theodore never mentioned Dominic was seeing anyone seriously. We kept it private, Rebecca replied, repeating the rehearsed explanation. Dominic values his privacy. Clearly, Natasha said with a knowing smile. But love has a way of surprising us, doesn't it? Other couples arrived, business associates of Dominic's, all wealthy and influential. They circulated through the house, admiring the artwork and making small talk, while Rebecca played her role. She smiled, made appropriate conversation, and stayed close to Dominic, as required. His hand rested on her lower back constantly, a possessive gesture that everyone interpreted as affection. But Rebecca felt the pressure of his fingers, the silent reminder that she was his property now. His to display, his to control, his to command. Dinner was a 7-course ordeal. Rebecca sat at Dominic's right hand, picking at food she couldn't taste while conversations swirled around her. Business talk, gossip about people she didn't know, discussions of investments and market trends. She contributed when addressed directly but mostly remained quiet, letting Dominic dominate the conversation as he clearly preferred. Dominic tells us you're an architect, Theodore said during the main course. What kind of projects did you work on? Past tense. Like that part of her life was already dead. Community projects mostly, Rebecca replied. I specialized in designing spaces for underserved populations. Youth centers, shelters, that kind of thing. How noble, Natasha said, though something in her tone suggested she found it quaint rather than admirable. Will you continue that work now? Rebecca glanced at Dominic, who was watching her carefully. I'm taking a break to focus on our marriage, she said, the words leaving a bitter taste. That's probably wise, another woman said. Being a wife is a full-time job, especially to someone as important as Dominic. There are so many social obligations, charity events, hosting duties. You'll be quite busy. I'm sure she adapts beautifully, Dominic interjected, raising his wine glass. Rebecca is remarkably talented at whatever she sets her mind to. The compliment should have warmed her. Instead, it felt like another chain. He was praising her ability to play the role he had assigned. After dinner, the guests moved to the drawing room for coffee and dessert. Rebecca found herself cornered by Natasha and two other wives while the men discussed business deals near the fireplace. You must tell us how you really met, one of the women said. A blonde named Patricia who wore diamonds the size of grapes. The official story is lovely, but we want details. Was it truly love at first sight? Rebecca's stomach churned. It was complicated. Well, complicated is always more interesting than simple. Natasha leaned in conspiratorially. Did you make him chase you? Men like Dominic are used to getting what they want, is Lee. A little resistance probably drove him wild. If only they knew how accurate that assessment was. Something like that, Rebecca murmured. You've certainly landed yourself quite the catch, Patricia said. Dominic Pierce is one of the most eligible bachelors in Seattle. Was, I should say. Half the single women in this city will be devastated. Let them be devastated. The third woman, Margaret, said with a sharp laugh. Rebecca saw her opportunity and took it. Smart girl. I thought she was a gold digger. A social climber who had seduced a wealthy man for his money? The assumption stung, even though part of Rebecca wished it were true. At least then, she would have had some agency in this nightmare. Excuse me, Rebecca said, setting down her untouched coffee. I need some air. She escaped to the terrace before anyone could stop her. The night was cool, stars hidden behind city light pollution. Rebecca gripped the stone railing and took deep breaths, trying to calm the panic rising in her chest. Headache? She turned to find Theodore standing in the doorway, hands in his pockets. Something like that. He joined her at the railing, maintaining a respectful distance. You don't have to pretend with me, you know. I've known Dominic for 15 years. I understand how intense he can be. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. Theodore's voice was gentle. I've seen the way you look at him when you think no one's watching. That's not the expression of a woman in love. That's the expression of someone trapped. You're mistaken. Am I? Because Dominic showed up at my office 2 months ago asking about your father's debts. He wanted to know everything about Gerald Hayes' financial situation, who held the loans, what the terms were. At the time, I thought he was doing due diligence before proposing. Now, I'm not so sure. She said nothing, terrified that confirming his suspicions would somehow make things worse. If you need help, Theodore continued quietly, if this situation is not what you want, I have resources. Lawyers who could help you navigate a way out. I can't, Rebecca whispered. My father, your father's debt, I know. Dominic told me he cleared it as a wedding gift. Theodore studied her face. But that doesn't mean you owe him your entire life. There are always options, Rebecca. Before she could respond, Dominic appeared in the doorway. His expression was neutral, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes. Theodore, your wife is looking for you. It was clearly a dismissal. Theodore nodded once at Rebecca, a gesture of solidarity, and went back inside. Dominic stepped onto the terrace, closing the door behind him. What did he say to you? Nothing. Just making conversation. Don't lie to me. I saw his face. What did he say? Rebecca faced him squarely. He offered to help me if I needed it. He's perceptive enough to see that something isn't right here. Dominic's jaw clenched. Theodore needs to mind his own business. Maybe he's just a decent person who recognizes when someone is in distress. You're not in distress. You're my wife, living in luxury, wanting for nothing except freedom, except autonomy, except the ability to make my own choices. You made your choice when you agreed to marry me. I made my choice between bad options you created. Rebecca's voice rose despite her efforts to stay calm. You manipulated my father's crisis to force me into this marriage. Don't pretend that was my free choice. Dominic moved closer, backing her against the railing. He wasn't touching her, but his proximity was overwhelming. She could see the anger in his eyes, but beneath it, something else. Something that looked almost like pain. I wanted you, he said, his voice low and intense. From the moment I saw you at that charity event, I couldn't stop thinking about you. Do you have any idea what that's like? To want something so badly it consumes you? To see someone and know with absolute certainty that they're meant to be yours. That's not love, Dominic. That's obsession. It's not healthy. Maybe not, but it's real. And I wasn't going to let you slip away, so you trapped me instead. Built a cage and called it a marriage. His hand came up, stopping just short of touching her face. I gave you a solution to an impossible problem. I saved your father's life and took mine in exchange. The words hung between them, heavy with truth. Dominic's hand dropped, and for the first time since this nightmare began, Rebecca saw his armor crack. The cold, calculating businessman facade slipped, revealing vulnerability underneath. Is being married to me really so terrible? He asked quietly. Rebecca wanted to scream yes, wanted to list every way this arrangement was destroying her, but something in his expression stopped her. He looked almost lost, like a child who couldn't understand why his gift wasn't being appreciated. It's not about you personally, she said, gentler than before. It's about choice. You took away my ability to choose my own path, my own future. How can I not resent that? I thought if I gave you time, if I showed you what our life could be like, you might change your mind. See me differently. Can't force someone to love you, Dominic. No matter how much money you spend or how many debts you pay, love doesn't work that way. Turned away from her, gripping the railing with both hands. Then teach me. Show me how it does work. Rebecca stared at his back, at the tension in his shoulders, and felt something unexpected. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding perhaps. This man, for all his wealth and power, was fundamentally broken. He had confused control with connection, possession with partnership. I don't know if I can, she admitted. You've hurt me too much. Then we're at an impasse. They stood in silence, the sounds of the dinner party drifting through the glass door. Laughter, conversation, the clink of glasses, normal sounds from a normal gathering that was anything but normal. The guests will wonder where we are, Dominic finally said. Let them wonder. But they went back inside anyway, resuming their performance. Rebecca smiled and made small talk while Dominic stood close, his hand on her waist. To everyone watching, they were newlyweds still in the honeymoon phase. No one saw the cracks beneath the surface. The guests left around midnight, full of praise for the wonderful evening and the beautiful couple. Theodore gave Rebecca a meaningful look as he departed, a reminder that his offer stood. Natasha hugged her and whispered, "Take care of him. He needs someone like you." If only she knew. After the last guest left, Rebecca went straight to her room without saying goodnight. She was exhausted from maintaining the facade, from smiling until her face hurt. From pretending this was anything other than a nightmare, she had just changed into pajamas when her phone rang. Claudia's name flashed on the screen. Rebecca hesitated, then answered, "Hey, don't you hate me? I've been trying to reach you for days. What the hell is going on?" "I got married." Silence. "Then you what?" "Dominic and I got married 3 days ago." Civil ceremony. "Rebecca, have you lost your mind? You've known this guy for what, a week?" "It's complicated. It's what you keep saying. Complicated. But this is beyond complicated. This is insane." Claudia's voice shook with anger and worry. I'm coming over right now. Tell me where you live, Claudia. No, yes. You're going to give me the address, and we're going to talk face to face like normal humans. And you're going to tell me the truth about what's happening because my best friend does. Not just randomly marry a billionaire and drop off the face of the earth. Rebecca closed her eyes. Knowing Claudia wouldn't let this go? Fine, but you have to promise not to do anything rash. Just listen. I promise nothing. Address now. Rebecca gave her the information, then went downstairs to wait. She found Dominic in his study, working on his laptop despite the late hour. My friend Claudia is coming over, she announced from the doorway. We need to talk, and I'm not asking permission. He looked up, clearly about to argue, but something in her expression stopped him. Fine, but be careful what you tell her. Or what? You'll threaten her too? No, but I will remind you that your father's well-being depends on maintaining our arrangement, including maintaining the appearance that this is a normal marriage. Rebecca's hands clenched into fists. I hate you. I know. 40 minutes later, Claudia's car pulled up to the estate. Rebecca met her at the door, and Claudia's eyes widened as she took in the massive house. Holy shit. This place is like a palace. It's a prison with nice furniture. Come on. Rebecca led her to a sitting room far from Dominic's study, closing the doors behind them. Claudia immediately grabbed her shoulders. Talk now. What is really happening here? So Rebecca told her everything. Her father's gambling addiction, the crushing debt, the threats from collectors, Dominic's initial proposal that she refused, her father's heart attack, Dominic buying the debt and forcing her into marriage. All of it spilled out in a rush of words that left her breathless and shaking. Claudia listened in stunned silence, her expression cycling through shock, anger, and horror. He blackmailed you, Claudia said when Rebecca finished. That son of a bitch blackmailed you into marriage. Essentially, yes. Rebecca, we're going to the police right now. This is coercion. It's illegal, we can't. He has lawyers who will destroy my father. And honestly, what would I even say? I voluntarily signed the marriage certificate. No one forced me to say I do at gunpoint. Dominic was clever about it. He made it my choice, technically. A choice made under duress isn't a real choice. Try proving that in court. It would be his word against mine, and he has unlimited resources to fight back. Claudia paced the room, running her hands through her red hair. There has to be something we can do. This is insane. You can't just spend your life married to someone who manipulated you into it. I don't see another option that doesn't destroy my father. Your father made his own choices, Rebecca. Bad ones. You shouldn't have to sacrifice your entire future because he couldn't stop gambling. He's still my father. I can't just abandon him. Claudia sat down beside her, taking both of Rebecca's hands. Listen to me. I love you, and I will support whatever decision you make. But please consider other options. There are ways out of this. Maybe not easy ways, but ways that don't require you to stay in this toxic situation. Like what? Like letting your father face the consequences of his actions. Like talking to a lawyer about annulment based on coercion. Like disappearing somewhere Dominic can't find you? Claudia squeezed her hands. You're not powerless, Rebecca. You're just scared. And I get it. But you're stronger than this. You don't have to stay. Rebecca wanted to believe her. Wanted to think there was some magical solution that would free her without destroying her father. But reality was more complicated than Claudia understood.